And 72 of his companions were martyred in the Iraqi city of Karbala. Imam Hussein was killed after he refused to pledge allegiance to the then ruler Yazid, whom he regarded as a tyrant. For Shia Muslims, Imam Hussein symbolizes freedom, dignity, and resistance against oppression.
It's Ashura again, the 10th day of Muharram in the Islamic calendar, a day in which Shia Muslims across the globe pay tribute to the greatest sacrifice for the sake of God in human history. That's because in the Battle of Karbala in Iraq, Imam Hussein, the third Shia Imam, and his 72 companions with infants at their bosom chose martyrdom rather than evil and wickedness. Such was the greatness of Imam Hussein and his spiritual power, which even today uplifts his followers to the heights of supreme courage and sacrifice.
In spite of all the painful and tragic aspects of Ashura, the Battle of Karbala holds a great significance in the history of Islam. That's because the revolution of Imam Hussein was not just an event that had taken place by chance. Shia Muslims believe it was a movement by the grandson of the Holy Prophet Muhammad for the revival of Islam.
The tragedy of Ashura continues to evoke the deepest emotions in the Islamic world, where every year Shia Muslims hold small and large processions to honor this tragic day.
Tyranny and repression has no end. It's only the faces of tyrants and the forms of repression that change over time. The battle between good and evil is eternal. That's why we should always stay on guard.
Imam Hussein showed us that only through resistance we can stop oppression. He gave us this vital lesson on the day of Ashura.
The same kind of people who killed Imam Hussein are now killing innocent women and children in the Middle East. But the right is the might, and they will fail in the end.
History has seen numerous massacres of innocent people, but the tragedy of Karbala is one of the few, where men, women and children were subjected to hunger, thirst and death because they believed that Imam Hussein stood for righteousness. Little wonder that for over 1400 years Shia Muslims have been nurturing the tale of Karbala in their hearts like an open wound, lest they should forget the supreme sacrifice of Imam Hussein and his followers. Hamman Nadiri, Press TV, Tehran.
Meanwhile, millions of Shia pilgrims have walked from all over Iraq to the holy city of Karbala. Press TV's Wissam Al-Bayati tells us more about the ceremonies marking the martyrdom anniversary of Imam Hussein.
Each year, on the 10th of Muharram, the first month in lunar calendar, Iraqi Shiite Muslims, young and old, commemorate the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. Despite being potentially targeted by attacks, millions of Shiite pilgrims have gathered at the holy shrines in Karbala. Thousands of Iraqi forces have been deployed across the country to watch against the bloody attacks that have marked past pilgrimages.
Iraqi security forces have made extraordinary efforts to make security during the pilgrimage. The pilgrims are holding their ceremonies safely in Karbala.
The shrine of Shia third Imam, millions of people dressed in black took to the streets and the shrines of Imam Hussein and Abbas to mourn the tragedy of Ashura.
In this place, Imam Hussein wrote history with his own blood. We want to live these sacred moments and announce our loyalty and passion to our Imam.
The annual commemoration is held in different regions of the world during various mourning rituals. Ashura marks the day when Imam Hussein, along with 72 of his companions, was martyred in the battle against the second Umayyad Khalifa in Karbala, Iraq, more than 14 centuries ago.
Imam Hussein will remain forever as a symbol of sacred sacrifice. These people have gathered for only one purpose, which is pledging allegiance to their beloved and holy Imam.
Ashura symbolized the eternal struggle of truth against falsehood and the battle against injustice and cruelty realized by Imam Hussein as he offered supreme sacrifice to uphold the principles against tyranny. Millions of Iraqi pilgrims have marched to the holy city of Karbala to take part in the commemoration of the martyrdom of Imam Hussein. The Iraqi pilgrims, who showed satisfaction toward the performance of the Iraqi security forces, have described the event as a glorious one. Wissam Al-Bati, Press TV, from the Holy Shrine in Karbala.
And of course, our condolences to all who's commemorating Ashura. Now, let's take a look at some of the mourning ceremonies being held in Iran and across the world.
لبیک عالم مناسب بده یعنی ولایت فدا علما لبیک یا حسین ببین خسته و افسرده و زارم یارم سکه سریده آن فنا جد من تشت جگر مصطفی مادر من دختر خیر و ورا هم به برادر حسن مجتبی پیش من خوابیده حق داری برادر یا محمدا وای از این فرق دوتا
Well, the leader of Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah gives Tel Aviv a stern warning. Thousands of missiles will target Israel if it dares to stage a war on Lebanon.
Israel, which was shaken by a few numbers of Fajr 5 missiles, which are not more than 10 Fajr missiles from over 8 days. What can we say? How will Israel put up with thousands of missiles which will land in Tel Aviv and further other than Tel Aviv as it launches an assault on Lebanon?
Said Hassan Nasrallah made the remarks during the Ashura mourning ceremonies in the capital Beirut. He added that no part of Israel will be immune in a possible future war. Nasrallah said that Israel was shaken by a small number of missiles that were fired from the Gaza Strip in response to its latest deadly aggression on the besieged territory. He also described Tel Aviv and its staunch ally Washington as the symbols of tyranny in today's world. Nasrallah added that the followers of Imam Hussein will not let arrogant powers humiliate them. And now to Yemen, where thousands of people have also staged massive rallies to mark Ashura. But a large number of people made use of the occasion to protest against the government. Yemen has seen zealous anti-regime protests for more than a year now. The uprising ended the 33-year rule of Ali Abdullah Saleh, but protesters say the goals of their revolution have not been achieved yet. They want Saleh and his allies to face justice for their crimes. Yemenis say the remnants of Saleh's regime should be forced out of power. Protesters are also angry with Washington for its drone attacks. They accuse the U.S. of meddling in their country's internal affairs. Well, Israel's latest offensive against the Gaza Strip has caused over $1 billion in damage in the besieged territory. A spokesman for the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas says 8 days of Israeli aggression have caused over $1.2 billion in direct and indirect damages. Tahir al-Nunu says that Israel's airstrikes destroyed some 200 homes and made 8,000 others uninhabitable. Tel Aviv also targeted and leveled mosques, health centers, and official buildings. More than 160 Palestinians were killed and about 1,200 others injured before an Egyptian-mediated ceasefire deal brought an end to the aggression. And now turning to Europe, where people in Spain's northeastern region of Catalonia are voting in early elections, and the results could redefine Spain's borders. Opinion polls show most voters will cast their ballots for parties that want Catalonia to break away from Spain. President Artur Mas is likely to be re-elected, with his Convergence and Union party gaining the majority of seats in the regional assembly. Frustration over high unemployment and a deep recession are fueling calls for independence. Many Catalans say that their economy would be more prosperous on its own. Catalonia has a huge weight in Spain's economy. It accounts for 1/5 of its total output and a greater share of its exports, but voters have mixed views about an independent Catalonia.
This is a very special time, and what comes out of this election will mark a difference between the past and the future. I think all we Catalans have many hopes for this process, moving on and having a country of our own, manage our own goods and get out of the well we are in now. It's very complicated for many people.
I don't really see it. Nobody is being clear about the good and bads of independence. So I don't think that we can actually decide on that until we know. However, what is clear to me is that we should have the right to decide, and then we can take it from there.
While angry Egyptians are protesting for the third consecutive day over President Mohamed Morsi's controversial decree granting him new powers. Police have clashed with demonstrators in Cairo's Liberation Square. Police fired tear gas to disperse protesters. Hundreds of people have so far been injured in clashes nationwide since Morsi's announcement 3 days ago. People are shocked at Morsi's new decree, which makes all of his decisions beyond any legal challenge, rendering the judiciary virtually powerless.
I completely reject the constitutional decree that was announced last Thursday by the president, because it gives President Morsi the powers of a new pharaoh in Egypt. Actually, there was never a pharaoh like this before, because ousted President Hosni Mubarak, with all his arrogance and dictatorial tendencies, never gave himself the power that no one can appeal his decisions.
Morsi's decrees must be fully cancelled. With these, he has turned himself into some sort of god.
Meanwhile, the fresh wave of unrest has shaken Egyptian markets. Stocks crashed on opening, falling by more than 6%. Trading had to be temporarily suspended. Meanwhile, more than 20 Egyptian non-governmental organizations have signed an open letter to denounce Morsi's decree, calling for its immediate withdrawal. But the Muslim Brotherhood, a staunch supporter of Morsi, has called for massive protests in support of the president's decision. Let's switch over to Cairo, joined by Press TV's correspondent Karim Kamaluddin. Karim, give us the latest on the situation as far as the protests and demonstrations against the Morsi's decree.
Yes, Marzia. As we speak, there are demonstrations that are taking place in Cairo's landmark Liberation Square and also in the surrounding streets, as the protesters are clashing with the Central Security Forces in the vicinity of the American embassy in Cairo, and also in elsewhere in Qasr al-Aini Street, as well as Mohammed Mahmoud Street. And the protesters are still sitting in for the second consecutive day in Cairo's Liberation Square, as they're calling on President Mohamed Morsi to suspend the constitutional declaration, the controversial constitutional declaration that was issued Thursday evening. And Marcia, it is worth mentioning that over 20 rights groups have issued a statement calling on President Morsi to also suspend the constitutional declaration, as they have warned of a new dictatorship after this constitutional declaration. And also there was a meeting that was held shortly by the journalist syndicate, and they have issued. There were inside the conference, there were mixed reactions, as it is the state in the Egyptian street. As you know, Mardia, this constitutional declaration has caused a state of polarization in the Egyptian street and the political arena. But at the end of the day, the journalist syndicate have issued a statement also declaring their dissatisfaction with the constitutional declaration that was issued, and we according to sources from inside the presidential palace, there is a meeting that will be taking place between the President of Morsi as well as his assistants and advisors. The advisory team of President Mohamed Morsi will be meeting to discuss the latest developments and how can they contain the situation. And Marcia, there is a state of polarization among Egyptians, and this is likely to cause escalated violence in the streets, divided between supporters and opponents, especially on Tuesday, as several liberal and secular forces, such as the Stool Party, which was established by Mohamed al-Baradei, and the Egyptian Popular Current, which was also established by Hamdin Sabahi, have called for a million-man march in Tahrir Square. And on the other hand, the Muslim Brotherhood has called for nationwide protests, and also close to Tahrir, outside Abdeen Palace, and clashes are
it's a possible tough situation in the making. Karim, any possibilities, any group trying to mediate this situation? Do we know anything about that possible mediation effort?
Well, on the opposition part, Hamdin Sabahi, together with Mohamed al-Baradei, the prominent opposition figure, as well as Amr Musa, the former presidential candidate, have formed a so-called National Salvation Front in an attempt to have a unified opposition bloc and to find a solution, or to discuss together and a possible solution to get out of this. To get out of this crisis. But on the other hand, there was a statement by Mohamed al-Baradei today where he said that there will be no dialogue with President Mohamed Morsi until the constitutional declaration is suspended. So the implications of the situation remains to be seen, Mardia, in the coming days and the coming weeks.
Indeed. Again, all eyes are on Egypt. Karim, thanks so much for that update. Karim Kamaluddin, Press TV's correspondent in Cairo. Well, Iran warns Turkey a controversial plan to deploy Patriot missiles near its border with Syria would have negative consequences in the region. Iran's parliament speaker says he has conveyed Tehran's concerns to Turkey during his recent trip to the country. Ali Larijani said he's told Turkish authorities that Patriot missiles would only compound regional problems. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman Ramin Mehmanparas says countries that have influence on developments in Syria should avoid adding fuel to the crisis. He says Tehran is opposed to a military option and favors a political solution to the Syrian crisis. Well, Turkish Foreign Minister Ahmet Davutoglu says that Ankara is considering improving its relations with Israel. Now, the announcement comes following reports of extensive cooperation between the Turkish and Israeli intelligence chiefs over the Gaza crisis. Davutoglu said that Israeli authorities have asked for an official meeting. But he noted that a full reconciliation would only be possible if Tel Aviv agrees to Ankara's demands. The relationship between the two sides soured in 2010 when Israeli commandos boarded a Turkish vessel en route to Gaza and killed 9 activists. Ankara is still awaiting a formal apology from Tel Aviv. And with that brings us to the end of this World News Bulletin. But don't go away, because Arash is next with Sports International. Stay tuned, please.